Okay, this next lab is lab 3, managing failover clustering. I have my domain controller, server 1, server 2, and storage all active and running. This lab we are going to deploy a general use file server role, deploy a scale out file server, configure failover and preferences setting, manage a cluster and cluster nodes, destroy a cluster, and configure VM monitoring.
Alright, we're back.
So we are going to go into server 1. And yes, we are already logged in as Contoso/administrator. So I just have to log back in because it timed out. And we're going to go into server manager. And go into tools and failover cluster manager. Okay, we're going to expand cluster 1, contoso.com. And then we're going to right click roles, actually left click, let it load, right click, and configure role. Oh, the estimated time for this lab is only about 85 minutes. So hopefully it'll take us a lot less than that. Alright, so we are in the high availability wizard. We're going to go ahead and click on next. And then we're going to select file server. Oops, wrong one. File server. And then click on next. And we want to go ahead and click on file server for general use, which is already selected. And click on next. In the name, we're going to type in file server. And then click on next. Oops. Here we're going to type in 1, we're going to put in a 6.3. And then click on next. On the select storage page, we're going to select cluster disk 2. And next. And next. And finish. So now we're going to go ahead and select cluster1.contoso.com. And since our current host server says server 2, we have to change that. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click here, go down into more actions, and click on Move Core Cluster Resources. And then we're going to do Select Node and select Server 01, and then click on OK. Now we're going to go ahead and click on Roles. And the owner node says server 2. We're going to right click on the file server and we want to move, and again we're going to select node and again select server 1 and then click on OK. Now we may need to wait about 2 minutes to allow time for the DNS entry to be created for file server. To create a file share, we're going to right click the file server role. And add file share. Let it think for a minute. And now that the wizard has opened, we're going to select SMB Share Quick, which is already selected, and then select Next. On the Share Location page, we want to ensure that the file server cluster role is selected. And then we're going to type a custom path. And we're going to do e:/data. And then next. It doesn't see E. Browse. We may need to do G. And here I'll put in data. And then next. On the share name page, the share name is already set to data, so we're going to go ahead and leave that be. And then we'll go ahead and click on next. And then go ahead and click on OK to create the folder. And here we're going to select Enable Access-Based Enumeration. And we're going to go ahead and select Next. And then Next. And then Create. And then we'll go ahead and click on Close. So here we still have our file server role selected. We're going to click the Resources tab at the bottom of the console. So we can see our things we just did. And then we're going to click on the Shares tab. To show that we are sharing the data file. That's the end of that exercise. Now we're going to go into the next exercise, which is deploying a scale-out file server. In this exercise, we're going to remove the general use file server and install a scale-out file server. So we're going to make sure we are on server 1, which we are. And using the Failover cluster manager, which we are in, we're going to right-click on File Server Role. Left-click, right-click, and we're going to go ahead and do Remove. And then go ahead and click on Yes. Now we're going to expand the storage node. And then click Disks. And right-click Cluster Disk 2. And add to cluster shared volumes. Okay, I need to probably wait a minute. Okay, so actually we're going to need to select Cluster Virtual Disk and then right-click. And then we want to add the cluster shared volumes. Now we're going to right-click Roles, left-click, right-click, and we want to go into Configure Role, and then Next. And we're going to click on File Server, and Next, and click on Scale Out File Server, and Next, and then here we're going to type in File Server, and then Next, and Next again, and then Finish. Now we're going to wait a minute or so the DNS entries have a time to be created. And we're going to click on the roles, which we already selected. If the owner node is server 2, and it is, we're going to right-click on the file server and then select Move and select Node and click on server 1 and then OK. And then we have roles. We're going to right-click File Server again. We're going to add File Share. And we're going to do SMB Share Quick, which is already selected. And then Next. And then we're going to click on the File Server. Select by volume, and then next. On the share name, we're going to type in data, and then next. And then here we're going to select Enable Access-Based Enumeration. And next. On the permissions page, we're going to click on Next. And then on the confirmation, we're going to click on Create. And then Close. With the file server highlighted, we can see our shares down here. That is the end of that exercise. Now we're on to exercise configuring failover and preference setting. So in this exercise, you're going to configure how the failover cluster is going to respond to failover and how it recovers from failover. So while we are still on server 1 and we're still in the failover cluster manager, we're going to click on roles and then right-click File Server and go into Properties. On the General tab, we want to make server 1 the preferred owner, so we're going to select server 01. And then on the Failover tab, and everything looks okay, so we're going to go ahead and do OK to close the dialog box. Let's go ahead and right-click File Server again. And again, go into Properties. And on the General tab, we're going to go ahead and uncheck Server 1. And then click OK. And that is all there is to Lab 3. So that's going to be the end of this video. The next video is going to be Lab 4, which is managing VM movement.